Welcome everyone to our 7th regional A-Talk. And the topic today will be the future of social impact in business. And today's regional A-Talk is quite special because although it's the 7th that we've ran here in AIESEC Alumni Asia Pacific, it is the first that we're co-running, co-branded, co-managed with AIESEC as well. And we have Prayog here, our liaison in attendance. Prayog, can you say hi and just say a few words, I guess?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to work with AIESEC Alumni Asia Pacific and bring together this event. So really excited, looking forward for this partnership. As David was mentioning, this is one of the historic collaboration we are having. So really excited. Stephen, back to you.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Prayog. So today's speaker, we have Jenny, who's in attendance, and she's from Humanitix, but I'll introduce her a little bit later on. If this is your first event from us, we have a few expectations for you. So really the basic ones, please be engaged and participate as enthusiastically as you can via cameras and microphones. And obviously, if you can, please keep your cameras on if it's possible, and then keep yourself muted if you're not speaking, and unmute yourself when you need to. And lastly, Prayog and myself will be checking the chat box throughout the event. So if you have any questions or any comments, please chuck it in there and we'll read them out and we'll get to them when we have the chance. For today's event, it's an hour event and it's quite a fast pace. We'll start with a quick introduction. We'll tell you who Jenny is and why we're honored, and we're really happy to have her here. And she'll share a bit of her story. And afterwards, we're going to open up a discussion space about social impact and what that looks like for the future. It's not just Jenny sharing, but we would like everyone to be able to participate in the space and talk with each other. And lastly, as usual, feedback and announcements for what Asia Pacific has to offer from AIESEC alumni side as well as from AIESEC. So this is Jenny. So Jenny is an AIESEC alumna from New Zealand, and she's currently now the head of distribution for Humanitix, which is the world's first not-for-profit ticketing platform. And she grew up in South Korea as well as New Zealand, and she practiced law in Auckland, New Zealand for about 3.5 years. Before that, she was the LCVP OGX, Outgoing Exchange, in her LC back in 2013, 2014. And in her AIESEC experience, she's been to 2 volunteering internships. So that's quite a good AIESEC experience that she's had there, and she's developed a lot of skills in social impact, and that's where she found her passion now. So I'll pass on to you, Jenny, to introduce yourself a little bit more and welcome everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stefan, for that introduction. And yeah, for you guys for having me as well. I'm just checking that you guys can correctly see the slide screen. Yeah, the purple. Awesome. So thank you, Stefan, Prayog, David, and AIESEC Alumni Asia Pacific for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, just share a little bit about my AIESEC journey and how it has led me to where I am today. And so, yeah, I mean, a great place to start in regards to that is, yeah, my AIESEC journey. So that began in 2010, which was the first year of my time at university, when I went on my first exchange to Beijing. And so that was the volunteer internship. Back in those days, it used to be called GCDP internships, Global Community Development Program. I'm not sure if those acronyms have been changed or updated. But yeah, it was a really interesting and exciting experience. That was actually the first time that I was traveling abroad alone as well. And I was teaching English at a small community, maybe 2 hours outside of the main Beijing city area, to migrant children. It kind of opened my eyes to a different world. I have after that, spent around 3 years joining the AIESEC Auckland local committee. Since then I have cycled through different teams and roles within AIESEC Auckland as well. So from, there's a bunch of acronyms there. So from incoming exchange to global internship program, which was the more longer term internship program that was available. I also was in the organizing committee for one of the national conferences, and then GCDP within outgoing exchange, talent management, so one of the leadership programs that we were running in AIESEC Auckland. And then, I loved it so much that I signed up to be the VP OGX, so Vice President or Director of Outgoing Exchange for the 2013 to 2014 term. As Stefan mentioned as well, I loved my exchange so much that I wanted to go on another one. So at the end of my third year, I think that was 2012, I went to Cape Coast in Ghana. And I was teaching kids in a small town called Apewasika, and establishing also a small community library there as well, with a bunch of secondhand books and painting murals and things like that. So all the fun stuff. And throughout my time in AIESEC, I tried to count, but I couldn't. I attended so many local, regional and national conferences, and had so many experiences, and just the network and friends that I've developed over the course of my time in AIESEC has just been very precious. It was a pivotal moment in my life. So I'm very thankful for that. I was looking through all of my photos, and there's so many, different experiences and stories that I could share about my time in AIESEC. But I came across this one, and I thought it really kind of captured what I had managed to get out of AIESEC during my time there. So this photo was taken at 6:47 a.m. on the last day of the last conference that I went to. I was actually, towards the end of my VPOGX term, and I was a facilitator for some of the conference program as well. After, back-to-back days of workshops and simulations and parties, all of us were still keen to just continue the conversation and the connections throughout the night, that all of the people on the beach, stayed up until sunrise, which is pretty unimaginable now. I think it's also just a good symbolic representation of AIESEC conferences in general. Like, I think in itself, it was a microcosm of what AIESEC was all about. Like for myself, I found that it was all about learning while having fun, getting exposure to new ideas, cultures, and people. I really, in these shared experiences, I really built those deeper connections. And it was a catalyst for my investigation into, what is the purpose of my life, and trying to find that meaning within myself as well. And it's AIESEC and these kind of experiences also exposed me to understanding our extreme fortunate circumstances in the world, being not just 1%, but the top 1%, but probably like 0.0001% of the world's population, and having the opportunity for high quality education and high quality standard of living. The fact that I had the freedom and the ability to just go to these conferences when I wanted to, which then gave me more opportunities to learn more and have these transformative experiences in my thinking as well. I think, my experiences, both, being in the local committee in AIESEC Auckland, as well as my exchanges abroad, really led me to understand our privileged position in the world, but also the power that comes with it as well. So each and every one of us has the potential to, really make the others, the rest of the world's lives a lot better. yeah, this is the point at which I became really passionate about the power of exchange and leadership within each of us as well. And yeah, being a part of actually making this happen through my various roles in AIESEC gave me a huge sense of fulfillment. So when I was completing my studies at university and starting to look at different career options and opportunities, I've always had it in the back of my mind that my goal and my dream job would be finding an AIESEC equivalent to my career. So really that sense of fulfillment and passion and purpose that I found in AIESEC, I wanted to find in the rest of my life as well. Yeah, so that brings me to, I guess, my journey in my career so far. And so, yeah, as Stefan said, I studied law and arts, and then I was practicing as a solicitor for about 3.5 years. And yeah, it was actually quite an interesting experience. I don't have any regrets on going through all of the studies and the being admitted to the bar, as you can see in this picture, and the experience that I got from practicing as a solicitor. And yeah, I found that it was very intellectually stimulating work. There was a lot of opportunities for development and growth. Yeah, obviously being a lawyer is quite a stable and secure job as well. And the firm that I worked for, they had a very supportive network and a social environment. But I think one thing that I felt was missing throughout all of that was the fulfillment and purpose behind the day-to-day work that I was doing. And so I had when I moved to Sydney, which was about 2 years ago to be with my partner, I actually took that as an opportunity to reevaluate my path and take the reins of my career instead of just kind of going with the flow, because up until that point I had felt that like I did pretty well in high school, so then I should, do a law degree to achieve my academic potential. You start doing, your law degree and you get into law school, so you're like, okay, I guess I'll continue on. I'm already halfway there. While you're at law school, there's all of these like summer internships that everyone else is doing, so you kind of go on that same train, and then you get a offer for a grad role, and then once you're a grad, then they take you to study to be admitted as to the bar. And so all of those things, it just kind of happened, and it was what everyone else was doing. So I went with the flow. But I thought the move to Sydney was actually a good time to just pull back and really think consciously what I wanted to do with the rest of my career as well. And one key resource that I came across online was 80,000 hours. So it's a website, and I think it might be a book and a podcast as well, premised around the idea that in our careers, there's generally around 80,000 hours that we have to spend doing our job. And it asks the question how you can make a big difference, or how you can maximize the impact that you can have with your career as well. And so, a lot of those articles within 80,000 hours I found really aligned with my thinking that had been developed through university and through my experiences in AIESEC. And when I looked into it further, I found that it was part of a bigger movement called effective altruism. And so this was within a couple of months of moving to Sydney. I saw that there was an effective altruism meetup as well. So I went to a couple of those, networked, and got introduced to different people. And by a stroke of luck, I actually got introduced to one of the co-founders of Humanitix, which is how I got to where I am today. So when I had a coffee chat with him, the role that he explained and just the vision of Humanitix really ticked all the boxes, as it combined commercial savviness as well as social impact, and using technology as a vehicle for sustainable social impact as well. It was a match made in heaven. So I'm really, really lucky to be where I am now. And it's probably a good time for me to also just give you a quick overview of what is Humanitix as well. And yeah, as Stefan said, we are the world's first not-for-profit ticketing platform, which is a pretty interesting model for an event ticketing platform or just a software as a service company in itself. And we are a registered charity with the ACNC in Australia and in New Zealand as well. And so basically event organizers use us to host and promote events like this A-Talk to attendees. And if they're selling paid tickets, then there's a booking fee that's charged. And then all of the booking fee profits are then donated to education projects. And so in Australia, that's Indigenous scholarships or education for disadvantaged girls in low-income countries. In New Zealand, we also share that international project of education for disadvantaged girls, or we also have a local project, which is digital literacy and education for Māori and Pacifica students. So yeah, we describe ourselves as the charity for the tech generation. We don't ask for donations from the public, and our impact is actually through the provision of software as a service. And yeah, people just use our platform, they host events, and as long as there are events, there is a booking fee that's charged, which then creates sustainable funding and impact through our platform as well. And one question that I get asked quite often is, why ticketing? Why was Humanitix created to disrupt the ticketing industry? It seems quite niche. And yeah, there's actually a few reasons for that. So one of them is that globally, it's actually a massive industry that's worth more than US $70 billion per annum, around 5% of which is the revenue from the booking fees. And it's also something that generally event organizers and ticket purchasers resent. Nobody, likes paying a few dollars or $10 or even more than that sometimes on top of their ticket price, and it's just not seen to provide that much value, social or otherwise, to those people. And the recurrent nature of events also guarantees that ongoing revenue and that sustainable funding with education projects that we've partnered with. And on top of that, we're giving actually an extra marketing leverage at no extra cost to event organizers who do decide to partner with us, because corporate social responsibility is a big idea and a big focus at the moment for a lot of organizations, and they love promoting and sharing the impact that they've been able to have by simply running their ticketed events through Humanitix. So yeah, that's a little bit about the background. So basically, as a registered charity, our mission is to close the global education gap. And we've so far been able to create this model in Australia and New Zealand, which doesn't rely on government funding or action. We're not asking the public for donations. It's basically almost to the point where it's self-funding as well. So with the impact of COVID on the event industry, there's been a little bit of a setback, but events, both live and online events, are now opening up, and so it's really, really good to see lots of those things going on. And I think in Australia we are pretty much at the self-funding stage as well, which is really exciting. So these are our three key stakeholders. Event organizers, of course. So by providing the best product and service at no extra cost, or maybe even quite cost effective as well compared to our industry competitors, they love using us and ticketing their events through Humanitix. With the ticket purchasers or the attendees of the event, they can see that the impact that their booking fee profits are going towards, and they can also become advocates for that kind of change as well. And all of that goes towards our end beneficiaries, which are the disadvantaged children that these programs will be benefiting. So, as I mentioned, Humanitix is focused on closing the global education gap. So in terms of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we align the most with number 4, which is quality education. During my AIESEC years actually is when I was first exposed to what was then Millennium Development Goals. I was also opened through AIESEC to the idea of the importance of education through my short experiences, going on those exchange trips and things like that. Almost full circle, be now involved in an organization that's working in line with the SDGs and in education in particular as well. As I mentioned, so both in Australia and in New Zealand, we share an education project, which is the international one, Education for Disadvantaged Girls in Low-Income Countries. And this is quite a important project to be supporting, as research has actually shown it's one of the most effective ways to alleviate intergenerational poverty while also mitigating emissions by curbing unsustainable population growth. And so some of the results from educating girls in low-income countries say that they're less likely to marry young. They have smaller, more educated families with better quality of living as well. And it's really addressing the root cause of the problem, not just treating the symptoms in the short term. And so I think educational equity in the developing world can really make long-lasting and systemic change. And as well, it's actually improving and interacting with the other SDGs, so poverty or hunger or gender inequality, and even climate change can all be solved by a world with fair, equal access to quality education. One statistic that I came across is that we would be able to eliminate 59.6 gigatons of carbon by 2050 if universal education in low-income countries is achieved. And so, that's a really exciting and audacious goal to aim for. As I mentioned, so until we are at a self-funding stage, what Humanitix is being supported and funded by philanthropic organizations, and that includes the foundations of Google and Atlassian as well. And we've also secured some funding to enable us to expand to the States within the next 12 to 18 months, which is really exciting. So in Australia and in New Zealand, we've proven that the model really works. The New Zealand market in particular actually has grown post-COVID as well, which is exciting to see. One of the main reasons that the foundations are supporting us is that the Boston Consulting Group did a impact analysis on our model. I think it was back in 2019, and they estimated that Humanitix's efficiency on funding is 4,000%, meaning that Humanitix will create a 40 times multiplier on philanthropic investments, which is unheard of for any charity model. A typical, well-run charity would only achieve, 90% at best, minus the overheads. So, when a philanthropist donates 1 million towards a cause, this, minus the overhead costs will go directly towards the cause. But with Humanitix, BCG has actually described us as the social unicorn, where the $1 million actually becomes a capital investment that will generate an ongoing stream of donations for years to come. And yeah, in time, this initial social capital investment has the potential to become $40 million worth of donations. So yeah, that's a really exciting figure. And just some of other numbers and stats to date. Between Humanitix Australia and New Zealand, we've donated almost $800,000 to our education projects. And we do provide our platform at a sustainable cost price to other charities and nonprofits as well. So we estimate that we've saved them around $150,000 for those organizations also. And yes, these are just some of the brands or names or organizations you might recognize that are currently partnering with Humanitix. And yeah, the number is growing every day, which is exciting. And I also just wanted to talk a little bit about our shareholders, as we call them. So because we are structured as a charity, we're not owned by anyone, and therefore we don't have any shareholders that we're liable to, and we can really focus on the end goal of closing the global education gap without the constant pressures of growth at all costs, which is what happens in a lot of for-profit businesses and organizations. And yeah, in essence, we think of our shareholders as the world's most disadvantaged children as well. And yeah, that leads me to the point and thinking more about not just Humanitix and what we are doing in terms of disrupting the ticketing industry, but the general future of social impact and business that we foresee. What's really exciting, I think, is the potential for Humanitix to become the case study or a model to other businesses and organizations for how profit and purpose can go hand in hand. Our vision is actually to evolve capitalism, which is, history's greatest economic engine, but combine that with real human values, not just shareholder value. We envision an evolved version of capitalism which preserves a free and competitive market, but relaxes the principle that humans are only profit-seeking individuals. We know, we're human, and we know other humans, and we know that we have other motivations outside of profit, such as quality of life, human rights, preservation of the environment, and just a general progress towards meritocracy and equality of opportunities. So I think this is why I am so excited and honored just to be involved in the journey of Humanitix. And I challenge everyone to think outside of the box and really invite all of you to choose the all-in for-purpose path as well. And the final question that I would leave you with is if a ticketing platform can change the world, then what's next? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jenny. So if you stop sharing your screen, so we'll be left with that question, right? So if a ticketing platform can change the world, what next? And so I'd like to welcome Prayog to just lead the space. And if you have any questions to ask Jenny, please ask as well. But I'd like to open up the space where we discuss what's next. What can we do to change the world or create social impacts for our businesses, or if you're in AIESEC, whatever you're involved with right now. On to you, Prayog.
Thank you, Stefan. First of all, let me say, like Jenny, very impressive. I love the talk, and I love the mission behind Humanitix and what are you trying to achieve. So thank you so much for an amazing talk and giving us information about how your experience in AIESEC has led you to work in such a company which is still creating impact around the sustainable development goals. I was wondering, as the world's first not-for-profit business model for ticketing platform, what are some of the tips you would give to AIESECers? Because I was just checking in the regional office, in the next 4 months in AIESEC in Asia Pacific, we are going to host around 50 plus events targeting an impact of 33,000 young people across Asia Pacific. So all the 21 entities we are present in Asia Pacific, altogether we are planning around 53 to be exact events.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which are around 33,000 youths around Asia Pacific. So what are the top 2 or 3 tips you would want to give to those AIESEC to make sure that the impact reaches the right people and in terms of the shareholders, the distribution is done well? That's my first question to you.
Yeah, so do you mean in terms of any advice towards AIESECers who are organizing those events and yes, delivering indeed. Those events? Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess the key thing that I found was really helpful in coming to a realization of, the importance of social impact, like the power that we have within ourselves is, during what I learned in AIESEC was just, you can be told something, all of these things, but I think it's quite a different feeling to be actually experiencing it in another way or feeling it. And so using AIESEC conferences as an example, they were not just like seminars, but there were a lot of like training sessions or simulations that actually helped us understand and made us feel a certain way. And then that became an analogy for the bigger picture. And I think that's a great way to really understand and feel some of the world's issues or burden, not just in an academic way. So I think that was a key. Yeah, that's a key advice that I would give to those events. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for the advice. I think like in AIESEC as well, we have had to change a lot of models when whereas we were used to having physical conferences and events to making it virtual. I would want to extend the question a bit further and asking you, how can AIESECers create such an events or which can stand out from all the different events which are happening? Since as a ticketing platform, you must, and having worked with so many big names as a partners, how could those events, virtual events, which AIESEC does right now, could stand out than the other event and have a maximum impact?
Yeah, I think the innovation in terms of delivering an online event has, just exploded in the last year. And there's a lot of interactive ways that you can host an online event as opposed to, just a webinar or seminar. And there's a lot of great free and paid tools out there that conference organizers or other online event organizers can use. And so some of them are like Mentimeter, where you do like live polling, or I know there's other software that can match up people to encourage networking and that kind of interactive experience that you get through physical events as well. And so looking into those tools and integrating that into your event, I think will keep everyone on their toes and make it a lot more exciting. One thing that we actually used to connect the teams both in Humanitix Australia and in New Zealand, as currently we're not really able to travel, waiting on the Trans-Tasman bubble, is we use this free application called Icebreaker. And it allows you to create these little games where you have different questions, like conversation cards, but you can also create your own questions as well. So it can be very specific to the team or the people that will be participating in. And they just match, one-to-one groups, one-to-one people, or bring together small groups of maybe like 4 or 5 people to then encourage in-depth conversations that's not just like surface level or small talk. So there's a lot of those kind of tools out there, and I'd encourage everyone to have a look.
Thank you. I think that's really important, innovation and usage of different tools. I would like to also ask anyone from the audience who would like to ask any questions to Jenny. feel free to unmute yourself and ask question.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Jenny. Thanks a lot for great talk. Really interesting to hear, all about a bit more about Humanitix. I've seen events from Humanitix, I don't know, for a few years and it's good to hear all about it, like what's behind it. Couple of things. I'd be interested to hear what's your, day-to-day role, like a précis of your role at Humanitix. And also, I'm looking after social impact for AIESEC Alumni Asia Pacific. And I was wondering if, down the track, I'd be able to, contact you to bounce any ideas or come up with some suggestions, how we can really, make it relevant and important for the region.
Definitely. So I will share my contact details at the end of the talk on the chat as well. So you can get in touch via email or add me on LinkedIn and we can go from there. In terms of your first question of what does my day-to-day role look like? That's also a very good question because it is also a very interesting charity to work towards, because you're not on a day-to-day basis, you're not actually delivering these programs, you're not actually teaching or working with underprivileged children. On a day-to-day basis, all of us are actually just focused on our tech platform. And making sure that we're providing the best product and service available. And so my role as head of distribution, which is, it's quite a vague title actually, is comprised of quite a few different roles. So one of them is sales, so outreach to event organizers who might be on other competitor platforms or those who might just not know about the existence of Humanitix. Because at this point where we've got to the product where we're at now, it's about spreading the word so that we can really scale and grow our impact. So that's a key component of my role. And then other than that, there's a little bit of like operations, admin work, and some marketing as well. We're actually quite a small organization. In Australia, there's about 19 of us that are full-time, including in-house developers. And then there's 3 full-time employees in New Zealand as well. And so we actually wear a lot of different hats. And so aside from doing sales, I also look after like monthly distribution of our newsletters that go out to event organizers and event attendees as well who've subscribed to our database. So it's quite a fast-paced environment, which I really enjoy.
Oh, I had a quick question for you, Jenny. Because Humanitix has started quite a while ago, do you see any trends or any changes that happened because of COVID in terms of the events that's happening or even the organizers that's going onto the platform?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a key few changes. I mean, obviously, when we all went into lockdown, everyone started, pivoting towards online events. And now that things are opening up a little bit, at least in Australia and in New Zealand as well, we're seeing the shift towards in-person events, but oftentimes actually a little bit more scaled back with the addition of hybrid events as well, because there is still a risk. It hasn't been, managed completely. The vaccines are still rolling out. There is a risk that, we might suddenly go into a snap lockdown, which happened in Auckland a few weeks ago. So they want to make the events small as possible to reduce expenses and things in the short term, but also offer that the hybrid experience. So if anyone wants to tune in via live stream, they can do that as well. And I think in the second half of the year in Australia, we are seeing the bigger events and festivals actually planning to go ahead. So one of the major partnerships that came across to Humanitix this year was Strawberry Fields, which is one of the largest art and music festival that's held at the border of Victoria and New South Wales. And they're full on, and I think it sold out within 30 minutes. It was a record even for them. And people are just gearing to to get out there. So there's definitely demand. It's just up to the government restrictions as well, and then the event organizers being able to have confidence and have that kind of risk reduced to be able to host those big events again.
Well, amazing. And I have one more question, because I know in our conversations, Jenny, before, you guys had quite an extensive process to choose the charity that you're gonna support. I want to take on that side. Could you share the experience when you how do you go through finding those charities? Because I want to be able to communicate that to the alumni community that might have their businesses or their own organizations, that if they don't run events, how would they find charities or causes that they can support?
Yeah. So when Humanitix actually first started, we used to have a list of about 20 or 30 different charities across all of these different fields that we were donating to. And that actually became quite untenable because one, there was a lot of brand and marketing alignment that we had to have with those charities to have their impact comms on our platform. But at the same time, that was also really dispersing the impact that we were having. And when they saw, there was a list of 20 or 30 different projects that we could support, other event organizers then would approach us and say, but how about this cause and how about this charity? Because I think there are a lot of charities, both local and international, that are dear to our heart for whatever reason. And not to take away from all of the different work that they're doing. But we found that it was actually quite a pull on our resources to be able to work with 20 or 30 different charities at the same time, as well as we wanted to actually narrow down and converge our impact. And so a few years ago we decided, okay, our mandate as a charity is to close the global education gap. Let's support one local charity, so either in Australia or New Zealand, and then one international charity that we support. And the international charity and the education project, that's implemented by Room to Read, which has been in the education space for quite a long time. And it's actually the charity that the Atlassian Foundation also support. And so we know that with the Atlassian Foundation, they obviously have a lot of philanthropic funding that they're giving every year. They've done a lot of research and have a lot of expertise into these kind of evidence-based charities and projects. And so I guess we, in this case, kind of deferred our expertise. Like, we are a tech platform, and we're not the experts on which charity is best. And so, that's why we've chosen to partner with Room to Read to be our delivery partner as well. And for individuals, there's a lot of great resources that's actually part of the effective altruism movement that actually evaluates the efficiency or the effectiveness of charities as well. And so GiveWell is one website that actually provides a lot of insightful information on if you want to be donating $100, like where could your money best be spent, on improving the quality of lives and the well-being of people. So that's an awesome one to look at as well.
Amazing. You go, David.
May I, Stefan? And if my internet breaks up, just put up your hand and yell. Okay, Jenny, like we said. There are a couple of points I'd like to make and ask. So for me, Jenny, whether you've signed up for it or not, you are an example of the global AIESEC movement, which is a lifelong journey that contains AIESEC and the alumni. So for me, some of the things that you provide a case study for are the following. One, folk who've heard me for the last couple of years know I often will use the phrase galvanizing the AIESEC alumni community behind the passions of its members. So you're an example. What's important for you is important to us, not only because we share the same values, but you're a member of the tribe. So that makes some certain very practical things come up. One is, within this room, me, for example, one of the things you need in your role is hot leads, right? In a sales function to spread the word with Humanitix. So by all means, contact me this week. I'll give you a few that I think would be appropriate for you to pitch your message to. Part of this thing is like there's an effort right throughout the community to provide greater impact in some sort of a measurable way. So for example, again, as a case study, Prayog is here. It's the first time we've done a co-branded, co-managed, co-promoted event. What do I like about that? I like the fact that if that wasn't the case, Prayog would not be in this room. Bringing Prayog into this room all of a sudden has extended your message way beyond the alumni community and all the way back through those 50-something odd events and their organizers that will take place in the AIESEC world. What you may not know is that that relationship with AIESEC has just been duplicated this week in Latin America, which again provides you the potential of getting the same message out to another part of the world, which is why one other point was, you mentioned before that, right now it's in Australia, New Zealand, it's moving into the States. But the truth of it is, because the tribe shares values, genuinely shares values, we share a common experience. Your photo of the beach, we've all had that kind of experience in our AIESEC background, which means that one of your roles, I would see, is to provide the opportunity to your team to use the AIESEC alumni community when it's right for you guys to look at Europe and Africa and Latin America, because it guarantees you another level of relationship based on trust and all kinds of things. And what do we like about it in the alumni community? Again, it increases impact from any initiative we have. So I loved your story. I loved the way you portrayed it. I've been sending messages to all kinds of people, even through your talk. Expect a call from your New Zealand, Korean, your descendants in AIESEC in New Zealand, because I have now let them know and reminded them that there's a New Zealand alum that's speaking to us. And yeah, so I please forgive me for the increased traffic you're going to get over the next week. Just one question, please. In terms of recognizing this is a lifelong journey, you had an extraordinary experience in AIESEC yourself. And it's some years later that you seem to have found the role that combines your passion, purpose, profit, all the rest of it. When you came out of AIESEC, did you find any sort of an anticlimax or a letdown in that period of your life when you were now looking to find those things? And if so, are there any specific recommendations you can give to other people as to how to avoid that letdown and simply move from one purposeful role to another?
Yeah, I think there's a general feeling, at the end of my AIESEC journey, at least, of kind of like almost withdrawal. You've been with this, group of people, this organization for such a long time, like more than half of my university life, and suddenly you're in this new path and you're closing a chapter. So there was a little bit of a feeling of that, and also just a fear of missing out, like, oh, if I extend my degree, maybe I could be LCP, or I could be involved in AIESEC New Zealand. Like those thoughts did go through my mind as well. But I think what really helped was the connections and the networks that you form within AIESEC during my university. That's not just standing alone within that, that circle of, AIESEC years during university, and then it's finished. Like a lot of my friends now are friends that I have made during my AIESEC journey. Actually, it's really funny. So my partner, who I now live with in Sydney, I met through AIESEC, and he was in the organizing committee with me for the Julyco National Conference in 2012. So yeah, and you will find so many stories like that. I think there was another couple recently in my network that just got married, and they also met through AIESEC as well. And so yeah, just looking to continue those relationships. It does become a little bit less structured because you're not forced into these, shared like intense experiences and groups and the goals that you have to do within those teams within the community. But yeah, if you just keep up those relationships and have conversations on like, what are you working on? Like, and questioning each other on, is that really what you want to be doing? Like, you know, remember that conversation that we had at you know, Springco at midnight, and you said this, and never let me become, you know, a handcuff to the golden chains of God, no, the golden handcuffs or whatever. Like, yeah, just keeping each other accountable. That's another, yeah, way that you can really continue that conversation as well. So, and being involved in an event like this, like years after my AIESEC experience, like that's phenomenal. And yeah, just really happy to be a part of this, and very excited for all of the new members that will also be coming on board every day or around the world to be open, to these kind of experiences.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. Jenny, I think last question from, I'll get to you, Joe. Just a question from,
say, Bill has a question in the chat.
So Bill was just asking, are you going to expand? I see April. Bill was just asking you, are you going to expand to other countries in Asia Pacific? Because I know you're going to the States, but what are the plans for Humanitix, Jenny?
Yeah, I think it's mostly an administrative bottleneck at this point. So whether we need like registered like legal entities in each of the countries that we're going to open up, that would be the main thing. But we currently actually, our platform has the capacity to transact in global currencies. So right now we've got AUD, NZD, USD, and Fijian dollars for some reason, which is odd. But yeah, once we actually, I guess, get the US expansion going, then we've got a little bit more capacity in the team to then look at other places, then that's definitely on the cards. So we kind of see the US expansion as being the key unlocking the global expansion, because they're obviously a huge part of the market.
Great. So last question from April. Sorry, everyone, but that's all the time we have.
I don't know if Joe had another question before me. No. Okay. Thanks, Stefan. Hi, Jenny. This is April from the Philippines. And I really liked your talk, and I've been, looking you guys up since I discovered you through the AIESEC Alumni, of course. And I also work in the space, or like in the intersection of like two spaces, right? The social enterprise space and the tech startup space here in the Philippines. And it's fascinating always to find these models come together, wherein you have these like tech startups really also driven by their purpose, and, all the more really integrating like social impact in their model. So kudos to you guys at Humanitix. I wanted to ask for more like practical, I would say, lessons or skills you've learned, right? That you might be able to share with us and, anybody who will be tuning in even later, because we do these regional A talks to also share these kinds of insights and leadership and entrepreneurship, etc. So yeah, like having that social enterprise mindset can be very different from having this like tech startup mindset. What have you learned so far, at least through your own experience, right? What kind of key skills, maybe from like a tech mindset that you were able to use in terms of really, performing, right, in your role, or even as an organization or as Humanitix, and vice versa, right? Like maybe what tech startups can learn from you on how you are able to integrate a social business model, or maybe even just practices that you do like day to day.
Yeah, I think the key thing that has really contributed to the growth in Humanitix is within like our internal team and our culture, there is like this acceptance of trial and error. So we are quite small, and as I said, we wear a number of different hats, and so we're not. Yes, I might be doing something. So if I'm sending out newsletters, like I haven't really sent out newsletters to a huge starter base before, and it's just something like a side projects that I have picked up. And then if I end up being able to do it well and have some kind of impact through that, then I continue on. But it's there's a lot of things that we pick up and we try. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're aiming to satisfy as opposed to perfect the process, and then have this amazing thing like 100%, because then the issue with that is you just either never end up doing anything most of the time, or you're just very like self-critical, and looking always at others and how they're doing it, and not really taking action yourself. And so this kind of internal culture of honesty to ourselves and to our other team members as well, of hey, I want to do this, I think this would be really useful for XYZ reasons, but it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to try it. Let's see how it goes. And I think that's the way that a lot of our processes within the team has developed as well. When I first started, there was 12 full-time employees in Humanitix. Now there's 19, and we expect to grow a little bit more in the next coming years as well. And so as an organization scales, more and more you do have to have processes and things that are in place to make sure that everything's running as smoothly and efficiently as possible. I've really seen kind of firsthand the development of when I first joined and had like a sales role. There was literally no processes or sales pipeline or efficient use of our CRM. But we've just onboarded 2 new salespeople in Australia as well. And just seeing that, comparing that difference from where I started to where we are at now has been amazing. So I think it's just the culture of encouraging everyone to try things out, but we're not going to be overly critical or criticize things if they don't go perfectly.
Amazing. So that'll be a wrap for our discussion. I'll share screen again. So thanks, Jenny, for all the insights and being part of our discussion today.